Get ready, Novas Nation. The countdown is on. The Supernovas return to the court this January with team captain Brooke Nuneviller and returning Huskers Merritt Beeson and GM John Cook. This season promises to be bigger, louder, and more electrifying than ever with world-class professional volleyball lighting up Omaha. Season tickets keep you at the center of every moment with the best fans in pro volleyball. Secure your seats today at supernovas.com.
Hello and welcome to Volleyball State, a look at the sport of volleyball in 6 rotations and a proud part of the I-80 Club. My name is Jeff Sheldon.
And I'm Lincoln Arneal.
Today on the show, we're going to be breaking down the Husker Invitational. Nebraska gets wins over Utah and Grand Canyon. Plus, we're going to be looking ahead to the big matchup in Nebraska on Tuesday night in Omaha, Nebraska, at Creighton at the CHI Health Center. Plus, it was a big week in college volleyball, so we're going to take a look around there as well. Lincoln, were you able to fit in Sunday volleyball after your Saturday of covering volleyball, staying up late to watch the Bud Crawford fight, and then whatever else you have to do on Sundays?
A little bit. I also had my real job work meeting on Sunday. I sometimes have weekend work meetings, but I caught a little bit of it. My wife actually went up to watch Creighton in Northern Iowa. She's a proud UNI grad, so it was not a happy day for her up in Omaha. But I watched a little bit of it too. We're still thinking about that Bud Crawford. We almost kind of had an unofficial I-80 Club gathering.
Oh, it was like there was a quorum. There was a bunch of the I-80 Club was at Jack Mitchell's house last night, staying up late. That fight started at 11:55, and I think we left at like 1 a.m. So that's why I was dragging today. I fell asleep in my chair like before noon. So because I'm an old man now, so I was able to catch a little volleyball, and then like you, regular real life stuff. How do we find time to do all the things that we do? And then there's like prepping for the show too, and putting together all the stuff that we want to talk about today. So I don't know. I feel like we put it together pretty good, even though the weeks are only going to get longer.
Yeah, it's getting exciting. It was a great week of volleyball too. So here's what we got coming up in the show. Rotation 1, we're going to start off with Grand Canyon, Nebraska's win over the Lopes on Saturday night. Then rotation 2, we're going to jump backward in time and talk about Nebraska's win over Utah. We're going to take a look around the country. Rotation 3, stay tuned for our Supernova Shining Star of the Week. Who's going to get that award?
It took us about 5 seconds to agree on the player this week too.
It was an impressive performance. So stay tuned for that. Rotation 4, we're going to start checking out the Big Ten. Big Ten season's not too far away, so it's time to start paying attention who's doing big stuff during the non-con portion. Rotation 5, we got a great interview with Creighton head coach Brian Rosen, where we'll talk about the upcoming match on Tuesday night. And then rotation 6, we are going to preview the match with the Arizona Wildcats. So
Can you believe that Arizona match is the non-conference finale, at least in the regular season?
It's gone so quick. I mean, there's been an extra week than most years too, but it's gone very.
I think there's some Big Ten teams that don't start conference play until the week after.
Oh, really?
But yeah, after this week, there will be no more non-conference. It's Big Ten season.
Fun, just getting underway.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks to our friends at Alumni Hall for sponsoring this show and all of our shows this fall. Alumni Hall is the ultimate Husker shopping destination. They've got 2 locations. You know about them by now. They're downtown at 11th and P, right across from the Lincoln Grand Movie Theater, and at South Point Pavilions. They've got more volleyball merchandise than any competing retailer. And let me tell you about just some of them. For the ladies, some new stuff at Alumni Hall that you're going to want to check out. The Libby Lou Letterman thrifted tee. I had to practice saying that.
Libby Lou Letterman.
The Libby Lou Letterman thrifted tee, which looks awesome. And also the Katie Lux Love Letter sweater. This is a really fancy, etched-looking, knitted, Go Big Red sweater you're going to want to check out. And for the fellas, we haven't forgotten about you. The Adidas on-field rope hat. Do you know rope hats are coming back? I need to scrounge through like my old room at my mom's house from when I was growing up. I know I have a bunch of rope hats stuffed in the closet somewhere. They're coming back. You can get a Nebraska Adidas on-field rope hat at Alumni Hall. And also the great deal from Champion, 2 tees for just $38 for the ladies and for the guys. we're going to save you 15% off of any of your order of Husker apparel, your merchandise, everything at Alumni Hall. 2 ways to do it. When you go into the store, tell them you're a Volleyball State listener, and they'll give you that 15% discount. Also, you can use code Volleyball State when you're shopping online at alumnihall.com. That's no spaces, all one word, Volleyball State, to save 15% at Alumni Hall. Also, one thing that Jack Mitchell wanted us to drop in is we've heard from a number of you subscribers. So maybe you're listening to the show live tonight, or you're a subscriber, but you didn't catch the live show and you're checking us out later in the week. Check your spam folders. If you are not getting the links for the live shows like Volleyball Late that we did Friday, and live shows like this, Gmail sometimes puts your email into like Email Netherland if it doesn't recognize the sender. A couple of you have mentioned, hey, I didn't get the live show link. Well, check your spam folder, check your other folder. Like, it's in there. We're sending them out to you for our great Volleyball State subscribers.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I feel you should get a 15% discount if you can say Livy Lou Letterman like 5 times faster. Yeah, they'll take care of you there too. So let's jump into
holidays are coming up. They're going to be here before you know it.
Yep. Let's jump into rotation 1. Nebraska takes care of Grand Canyon with a sweep. It was 25-12, 25-23, 25-18. It was a youth night at Devaney Center, John Cook Arena. DBK kind of switched things up a little bit too. We talked to her after the match, and the coaches were talking about this Friday after the Utah match too, of mixing up the lineup a little bit. Some of them said, let's just get all the B team in there. Let's switch it up a little bit. DBK said she's a little bit hesitant, but woke up Saturday, her gut told, let's do it. So they
warmed to the idea after a good night's sleep, it sounded like.
Yeah. So you had Campbell Flynn at starter. The outside hitters, Terea Sigler usually plays just the back row. She played all 6 rotations. Skylar Pierce got a start at outside hitter. Manaya Obeche, another freshman, is just a 4 straight freshman we've listed off. She started at middle blocker. And then you had another freshman, Virginia Adriano, start at opposite. Rebecca Alec was kind of they only playing 3 middle blockers, so one of the 2 regulars is going to have to start. So Rebecca Alec got the start at middle blocker. And then Olivia Mauk got the start at libero. I think that's her first. She's finished a couple games at libero. I believe that's her first start at libero. And we also saw a lot of Maisie Bosinger playing a more expanded role at DS2. So wild lineup.
Yeah, that means. And so let's talk about the players we didn't see too. That means Harper Murray got the night off. Andy Jackson got the night off. Bergen Riley basically got the night off. She came in game 2 as a serving sub, but otherwise didn't play. Am I missing anyone? Maybe Choboy didn't play, right?
No, Choboy played a little bit. She still came in and played 2 of the set 1 and set 3. She came in and played some back row, but Taylor Landfair also got the night off.
So I mean, you're playing a couple. Nebraska had 3 matches in 5 days, I think, because they didn't play. They're not playing Sunday, not playing Monday, and so Nebraska gave the youngsters a chance to see what they could do, which, one of my favorite parts of last night was John Cook, sideline reporter, like fledgling sideline reporter John Cook, standing underneath a scoreboard that now bears his name, talking to Danny Busboom Kelly and doing the thing that young reporters do, which is like a really long preamble before you ask a question. Basically said, Danny, I never had the luxury of having this many good players on one team, which is one of the reasons why I never played so many players. But tell us what you were thinking on that. So that was fun. But I have never seen a Nebraska team really do this, at least under John Cook. What they would do usually is they would do their starters for at least game 1 and then maybe bring in reserves for games 2 and 3. But I think what this tells me about Nebraska is, you kind of have a starting lineup, but there are still players fighting for spots.
Yeah, and I think too, it's different. It's a different mindset when you're going in on point 1 as opposed to letting the starters kind of go through warm up and you stand around for it. So I mean, it's a different experience for that group that got the start that usually isn't getting a lot of playing time. And I think it's a better experience for them too, more realistic. It gives them this is your night, make the most of it. Don't warm up, stand around for a set, and then go try to perform at a high level too. So I think it is a really good opportunity for them to make the most of that. And this is what you wanted to see from a lot of them as well too. Is just that give them a full match, let them see what they can do. This was the first time. I mean, I think the first time Bergen Riley didn't start in her 3 years at Nebraska. She missed a couple of sets earlier this year. That was the first time she played every set, both her freshman and sophomore year. So it was weird. And I think Harper Murray's also been a regular for every single match out there that she's played at Nebraska too. So it's a little bit weird, but this is depth like Nebraska's never had before too. So they can do this, run out almost a completely different lineup and still look very good.
So let's run through some numbers real quick. Terea Sigler, this was her best match as a Husker by far, playing 6 rotations. She had a career high 14 kills, added 11 digs for a double-double. Obeje, again, this was not a career high, I believe, for her because she had that great match last weekend where she started for Rebecca Alex. She starts for Andy Jackson on Saturday, 10 kills, hits 529 with 3 blocks. Rebecca Alex, steady as always, 8 kills for her. Virginia Adriano, Lincoln, I thought this was a really nice thing to see from her, even though I think she's still not excelling at lower, faster sets. When they get it up high to her and just kind of let her hang and bang, like she can put it away. She had 8 kills, including 1 on a really nasty tip, I would say. And then, we're kind of starting to see what she can do from the service line as well. She had a pretty nasty service run in there.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing from her. You see those flashes from her, like, oh, this is why Nebraska wanted her and what the potential they saw in her and why she was playing professional in Italy. But yeah, there's mixed, and she did have a couple that were straight into the block, and we had a couple hitting errors too. But I think this was overall a good night for Virginia Adriano.
We had Skylar Pearson there too with 5 kills on 13 swings. And then Campbell Flynn, helped herself in the front row as well. 5 kills for her on just 6 attempts, which is great efficiency for a setter, and also handed out 37 assists. So you really see why they like Campbell Flynn, and I think how special she's going to be able to be someday.
Well, and she looked a lot more offensive this match than when she's kind of come in for those token small short appearances earlier this year. She really wasn't as offensive as she was on Saturday night. She did a couple of those second ball touches where she was going up with a full legit attack swing, not just a setter dump over it. So I really thought she was aggressive and did a very good job of putting a lot of her hitters in good position as well too. The one you mentioned, Skylar Pierce, I was a little disappointed. I mean, she only had 13, which was the lowest of any of the 5 attackers. Virginia Adriano had 16, and Terea Sigler had 30 different attacks. So I would have liked to see Skylar get a little bit more run too. I don't know whether that was just the rotation.
I think it was the rotations, right? Because she was not in the front row at the start. So she's got to wait 3 rotations before she can come in the match. And so she's just going to have fewer rotations, fewer time on the court.
And wasn't playing back row, which Sigler got a number of back row attacks as well too.
So Nebraska, kind of blows it out of the water in the first set, hits 533 in game 1 Saturday against Grand Canyon. They come back down to earth in the second set. And it looked like, Grand Canyon was potentially going to steal that set. I don't remember the latest lead they had, but they had a 2-point lead, well into the teens. And I think Danny Busboom Kelly said afterwards, she was preparing herself mentally that they were going to drop that set. Nebraska ends up pulling it out.
Yeah, it was tied 19-19 was a late that Nebraska kind of pulled that out. I mean, that was the closest they got. I mean, it was 24-23 as well too. After they scored. So it was, I think the latest they led was 17-16. So it was well into the set too, but they had to scuffle for a little bit there.
Yeah, absolutely. But then Nebraska finishes it off with, fair amount of ease in game 3, 25-18. Lincoln, just overall thoughts on the match. You told me last night you kind of knew what the story was going to be before the first serve with the wholesale changes. But, I look at it as less of Nebraska kind of flexing on their depth and showing everyone, this was not done to make a statement, at least externally. At the same time, I think it was, a message to the team, to the established starters that like, hey, we're going to give our kids some run. And, we play a lot of scrimmaging in practice, but we're going to run them out there in a game as well. And it was also a message to, the backups, the freshmen, that you got to be ready to go at any time, because like, Danny said after the match, there's going to be some time this fall in conference play where somebody's going to be struggling, one of the starters, and we're going to put you in and we're going to expect you to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and I think that's the good part too. I mean, I think Danny said this in the post-game press conference too, that they know that the schedule getting into Big Ten, there probably will be less chances for backups to get in a lot for long stretches. So I think this was a good opportunity to make those changes, show that depth, and get them game experience, because like you said, and like Danny said too, who knows what's going to happen? An injury may pop up where they're going to need a player to step in and really get that experience. Now they have some, I don't know, big game experience. They have some live experience against an opponent.
In the IED Club Discord, Dan Stos agrees with us. And Dan, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Says she told Cook after the match that she needed to figure out which starting lineup to use consistently in the future. So it sounds like there won't be as much playing around with the starting lineup. I would agree with you, Dan. I don't think you're going to see quite so much musical chairs unless there's like an injury or something. But one of the questions I have for you, Lincoln, is, one of the harder things to nail down when you are running out different lineups is passing. And it's not like Nebraska's passing has blown anyone away this fall. And so you're putting new passing partners out there. You're switching your libero around a little bit. I mean, would it serve Nebraska's passing better? Just kind of stick with a starting 6 for a couple weeks and drill them in practice and try to let those passing relationships get figured out?
Yeah, I think it would a little bit. I mean, there was some instances, like especially that second set when they used Bergen Riley as a serving specialist in back row, where they have not practiced that one. I'll guarantee that, because they rarely will practice with Bergen and Campbell on the same side, because they're both set in their own groups. So you could tell there were some communication breakdowns, and not just on passing, but in floor coverage too, for some tips that went to the middle of the court that are between zones that maybe Nebraska was a little more hesitant because they were unfamiliar with the person next to them. But as far as passing, I think Nebraska generally uses the same 3 or 4 passers, regardless of the formation too. It's going to be, Choboy, Mock, whatever one of them is playing libero. Harper Murray's going to be back there. And Bergen Riley. I mean, they keep Bergen Riley out of that, but Taylor Landfair a little bit too. So I think same, as long as those, and then Trey Sigler as well too. I think that those 4 or 5 people need to work out the chemistry. So and I think that group is established, and so it will help to get the more consistency out there.
Just a reminder for when we talk about passing, a little more context. Nebraska passed at a 2.3 on the 3-point scale last year. This year it's down to 2.12. Huskers this season are in system 52% of the time off serve receive, which isn't bad, but they're used to being up there above 55%.
Yeah. The one thing that I wanted to talk about too is kind of, Nebraska did make wholesale changes. They probably won't make, but I think Nebraska fans will need to get used to players going in and out more often. I mean, Danny's not afraid to make substitutions. She's a lot more liberal with the bench, and especially with the depth they have this year than John. John Cook was, here's my lineup. We're going to stick with it. You're going to work through your struggles. And it took a lot for a player to get pulled in his system too. But Danny, I think, is a lot more proactive and will go to the bench a little bit quicker than Cook, and is also not afraid to experiment, especially in this early season. So I think I in my mentions, and there were some gripes about we need to settle on the lineup. Like, no, this is a deep team. You use that depth. Each player brings something different, and different moments were required for that too. I mean, what is your take on kind of lineup usage so far?
I don't think I would be grousing about it against like Grand Canyon. Maybe if this was a team that was looking a little shaky in Big Ten play, and they will, right? Or not, they won't look shaky. They will, they might, but they will settle on a lineup, right? By like October. This is the time of year that you move things around and you try to figure it out. And I will say, I thought of this while watching, watching Grand Canyon last night, Utah obviously on Friday night, and then seeing kind of what some other Big Ten teams are doing. It's not like Nebraska's playing chumps. Like, Nebraska's bringing in teams that are pretty darn good. Like, they're not maybe Final Four caliber, but they're not cream puffs either. Like, we're going to talk about Utah in a second. That team's good and is going to get some wins this year. And Grand Canyon, I think last year they were a win short of the NCAA tournament. They lost in the finals of their conference tournament, and they've got some blockers that really impressed me, and some outside hitters who knew how to take big swings at volleyballs. And so, the fact that Danny has the courage to do this, not against like Nowheresville State, like I think she's still pretty confident in the overall talent level of the team, but knows like you do that against this part of the schedule. You can't do that when you're playing like back-to-backs against Penn State and Maryland.
Well, yeah, she did it last week against Wright State, and Wright State had a good weekend. They took a set off of Pitt and beat Ohio State. So I think, yeah, so these are good teams that Nebraska playing. And you mentioned how good Grand Canyon is at blocking. They have blocked Nebraska 8-4, which I mean, the blocking, I think, is another thing that takes a lot of work together. And
Nebraska's best blockers were probably not on the floor.
I would not read too much into
on Saturday night.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that very much.
Well, hey, do you want to go to rotation 2 on Friday night?
Yeah, let's go to rotation 2. I mean, for those people who are Patreon members, Jeff and I already did a 25-minute, 22-minute breakdown immediately after the match too. So if you want to get our immediate thoughts, not wait till Tuesday morning to hear us, sign up for patreon.com/IAD Club, patreon.com/IAD Club. You can hear us there too. But let's go to that match. Nebraska drops the first set 25-21, but then wins the next three 25-8. 25-8, not the next one was 25-18, and then 25-13. So a little bit of a slow start, but Nebraska really changed around that second set too. What was your kind of take? What did you credit that sluggish start to?
Well, I mean, when Nebraska struggles, it's because their passing struggles almost always. And they really did not pass well in game 1 against Utah. I do not have, broken down by set passing numbers, but it was pretty poor. Utah aced Nebraska 3 times in game 1. Huskers struggled to get in system, and Utah really kind of controlled that set from the midway point. I think they were the first to get to 10. They were certainly the first to get to 20, and they just kind of pulled away. Cam Gibadlo had 7 kills in game 1?
7 of our 11 kills came in that first set.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, Nebraska, as soon as game 1 was over, seemed to flip the switch, and they come out and they dominate in game 2, winning at 25-8, and they hit 750 in game 2, which is pretty darn good. And as much as the passing sort of struggled for Nebraska in game 1, they flipped that matchup for the rest of the match and actually ended up outpassing Utah themselves. 2.06 for the Huskers, 1.88 for Utah, which is the worst passing match of any Husker opponent this year. We didn't have those numbers on Friday night for volleyball late, but we had a feeling, right, that Nebraska outpassed and our eyes worked. So we saw that Nebraska outpassed and outserved Utah for the rest of the match. And Nebraska really picked it up from the service line and was aggressive in games 2, 3, and 4. Utah just really struggled to get in system.
Yeah, I think you saw a little bit of the flip switch a little bit towards the end of that first. I mean, Nebraska was down. It was 21-13 was as bad as it got, and that's when, I mean, this didn't have an impact, but Ali Czech came in for Adriano, and I think just her energy, and then they had a service error. Then Taylor Landfair went back and served, and to me that started the mind shift of playing aggressive, hitting hard, because she had an ace during a little 4-0 run, and I think that kind of was the theme of the night too. Was Taylor Landfair was thumping the ball. She had 27 serves, which was by far the most of anybody. I think Nebraska got 20 points when she was at the service line, which has not been one of their strongest rotations. You had this great stat that you put out there about what Nebraska's I guess was it their passing or hitting efficiency with?
It was we posted their hitting numbers by rotation. We'll try to update that when the numbers become available this week. Landfair serves in rotation 2, which at least as of last check, and I haven't updated this since the middle of the week, so maybe it's changed a little. Nebraska has been hitting 382 in rotation 2, which is their strongest offensive number. So when Landfair is back there, thumping thirds, that means you have a front row of either Ali Czech or Virginia Adriano at the opposite. So the opposite's in the front row in rotation. Rebecca Alec, who's hitting over 400 this year, in the middle, and then Harper Murray, Nebraska's best overall player, is also left front then.
Yeah, so that really was a theme, and I think that kind of sparked Nebraska a little bit too. And then Taylor Landfair went off too. I mean, I thought she was serving hard and then also hitting hard. I think we've talked to her a couple times during the course of the year too, and how tipping is not what she needs to be doing at the front row. So whether it's hitting high hands, hitting line, or hitting that her best shot is the heavy arm cross court shot. that if she gets a high enough ball, can really use her length to hit hard.
Well, and I don't think my memory's making this up, but it was some swing this weekend where, Landfair struggles when the ball is behind her. She, in the past, at least to me, seems like if the set is not perfect, that's when she tips because she doesn't like to take risky swings that make errors. Well, she had a ball that was sort of behind her head, and she was still able to take it down the line for a kill, which I thought was really a mature swing by Landfair. But, we're burying the lead a little bit, it feels like, against Utah. The player that had the eye-popping stats was Rebecca Alec. She had 13 kills, hit 667. I think she just had one error in the match. So she had that on 18 swings, also added 7 blocks. I mean, this was a stud
two solo
match
stuff too. Yeah.
2 solo.
Yeah, 2 solo stuff. So
okay, so Rebecca Alec was the stat stuffer on Friday against Utah. Harper Murray 9 kills, Andy Jackson 9 kills as well, and then Landfair. When you can get her, I would say when you can get Landfair over like 250 in a match, as far as attack percentage goes, that's a really good match for her. She hit 467 on Friday against Utah. So 8 kills for her and a pair of aces. And then Bergen Riley had a really great defensive match. And Riley's got to be one of the better defensive setters in the country. She had 18 digs on Friday against Utah to go along with her 32 assists.
Yeah, and that may seem kind of low, 32 assists over a 4-set match.
Yeah, that's only 8%.
That is kind of low, but I mean, when you look at 18 digs, and Nebraska had 10 non-Riley assists, so she's putting other players in position to do that. And also, Nebraska had 6 non-assisted kills, which are largely coming on overpasses too, which again goes back to how well they were serving. That there's 6 kills where you're just slamming it straight home or winning jousts. So I think that is low, but again, not a sign for concern because her defense was putting people in position to take over her roles of distributing the ball.
Yeah, it was the 5th time on the season already that Nebraska's hit over 300 in a match. So Huskers end up holding off a really game Utah team. I think that Utah team's going to be, maybe 3rd in the Big 12 this year if they're fighting with BYU and Kansas. And, we'll see what Arizona State's able to do again. But and then TCU, goodness, like the Big 12 actually looks to me like a little bit better of a league than we thought they were going to be going into the year. But we'll talk about TCU and the Big 12 a little bit later on in the show. Anything else you want to talk about for Friday night against Utah?
The only thing I was going to shout out, I mean, we talked about Taylor Landfair serving. Andy Jackson also had a great 7-0 service run in that second game. There's 2 7-0 runs. You're going to win almost every single set that you play if you have 2 of those in those. So, but Andy Jackson keyed the other one as well in that second set. That 8 points was the lowest point score, beats the 11 that Pitt put up in that opening match. So, I think Nebraska, once they got in the groove of things, started realizing thumping the ball, changed it around, and it was not much of a stressful night after that first set.
Let's move into rotation 3, and what a week it was in college volleyball. This is our rotation where we look back at the national landscape and the big series, the big storyline this week in college was the ACC SEC Challenge, where this was so cool. We were talking about this earlier in the week. It'd be great to see the Big Ten do something like this. I don't know that Nebraska necessarily needs the strength of schedule boost, but when I look at what some Big Ten teams are doing, we're going to go through the Big Ten and then our next rotation. There are some with pretty inflated records at this point, I see, because they're kind of playing nobodies. The ACC and SEC really put on a show this week.
Yeah, it started as 2 nights, and it's really kind of highlighted by, there was 2 matches that were played in Fort Worth of all places, which when you think SEC, ACC, you think Fort Worth, Texas, but they played a pair of matches there too, or 2 top 10 meetings. We'll start with the first night was kind of highlighted. Texas A&M and SMU played. SMU had a sweep over A&M, and then Stanford defeated number 23 Missouri in 4 sets. That was in Columbia.
Yeah, that was in Columbia.
That was a second match, and I think that was a late match as well too. Comfortable for Stanford, but it was a late match in Central Zone.
Was it game 2 in that match that could have kind of gone either way? Like Missouri was right there, potentially to take a 2-0 lead in that match, but Stanford ends up winning it and then wins out in 3 and 4. But Missouri stood toe to toe with them.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Well, I'm looking up right now. It was like 31 or 33-31, I think. Yeah,
It was
33-31. Stanford won, and both of them had multiple set points within that too. But Stanford won that to go up 2-0. Missouri did battle back in the third set. So
I do want to claim a little credit for having or of some foresight looking at the North Carolina Florida match. We were talking about this in the I-80 Club Discord. We actually have a great college volleyball community in there. If you go to the college volleyball channel, Scrat's been giving us some really good contributions. John SP is in there talking college volleyball, not just Nebraska stuff, but there were people watching the ACC SEC challenge. And I told that channel, like, hey, keep an eye on North Carolina, Florida. Well, in Chapel Hill, North Carolina sweeps the number 11 ranked Florida Gators 3-0.
Yeah, I was impressive. I mean, I was watching A&M Stanford or SMU at that match, so I didn't get to see much of it, but I was keeping an eye on the score bug, and it was an impressive performance against Florida, who has some. They have a lot of good wins already this season, so they beat Pitt. So.
Let's see. Wednesday night, the big match, of course, was number 2 Texas beat number 4 Louisville. Again, Texas. Looks like they're at death's door in game 5, and then they just decide to lock in once they're down. Let's see, they were down, I think, 10-5 against Stanford last weekend in the 5th set, came back and won. Louisville had them down 11-6 in game 5, and Texas just puts their foot on the gas. They start serving tougher, and then with their terminators, with their pin hitters, like they're just never out of a match.
Yeah, and it really started with Ramsey Gary, the Indiana transfer. She dove into the bench, and it wasn't just
climbed up into the 4th row, ordered popcorn, and saved a ball.
She sent the ball over because that was their third contact. It wasn't that she saved the ball in play, but she sent it over inside the antennas, and that really that was the spark that I think really lit Texas, and they ran off 3 or 4 points in a row after that too. So another big night. I mean, Tori Stafford, 20 kills, 17 digs. Kari Spears, another amazing night, 16 kills, and then Abby Vanderwall had 14. So those, we mentioned it last week in the show, those 2 freshman pin hitters are going to be the difference as well too for them. So it was a great match. Ended another late night, but it was a fun one too. Then I don't know if we want to keep talking about the ACC, but the other match, Pitt looked like old Pitt when they swept Kentucky 3-0. Their offense was electric, and I don't remember what they hit, but I mean,
it was like over 400. I'm pretty sure. I can't believe I didn't put it here in the notes, but we've got 349. Excuse me, Pitt sweeps Kentucky, hit 349. This, Lincoln, this could be a matchup of 2. We can look back at the end of the season and say these were the 2 best offenses in the country, because Pitt has the capability of going over 300 every night. Kentucky pretty much does go over 300 against almost everyone. They didn't against Nebraska, but Olivia Babcock reminds everyone she's still here. 15 kills and hit 306. And then they're starting to get some contributions from some of those other players. Blair Bayless had 9 kills and hit 400. Dagmar Morit had 13 kills. So like Pitt's going to be fine as long as they can find like a solid number 2 and number 3, because Babcock is always going to be there.
I would like to see their middles get a little bit more involved. They got 2 really great middles, and Riley Jones, who she only had 5 kills, but hit 625, and then Brie Kelly also had 5 kills, but hit 833 too. That's the big difference between Pitt last year and Pitt this year, is that they got a little bit more from their middles. So we'll see what they can do.
Well, that's is it Brooke Mosher, their setter?
Yeah.
That's her kind of coming along and feeling a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, if your middles are sort of combined to hit 750, you might want to try to find ways to get them some more swings. Kentucky's led by the usual suspects. Eva Hudson had 15 kills. Brooklyn DeLay had 14. They got theirs a little bit later on in the week when they beat SMU, but not quite enough. Pitt shows everyone that they're not ready to go away yet.
Yeah, and we wrote about this for our Patreon members, our week that was newsletter too. It all came down to that exciting Cal Vanderbilt match and who was going to win the ACC SEC challenge, just like everyone predicted. And Cal ended up beating Vanderbilt in 5 sets in a match that ended after midnight in the Central Time Zone. So
decent week for the Cal athletic department. Also during the Crawford Canelo Alvarez fight, Cal was busy finishing off Minnesota in football too. So good job, Cal. Kentucky, hey, it wasn't a bad week for them, even though they got swept by Pittsburgh. They did beat SMU, which is a really quality team this year that we haven't honestly talked about very much. We should maybe put an eye on the Mustangs in a show in the coming weeks. But Kentucky beat them in 4. They lost the opener 28-26, but then won it 25-22, 18, and 23. Kentucky, I think by this point has probably settled on their setter. That's the freshman Cassie O'Brien, who had 49 assists to go along with 9 digs. Brooklyn DeLay hit 318 with 22 kills. Man, she's so good. And then Eva Hudson, 16 kills and 12 digs for Kentucky. So, and Kentucky, I don't see their team hitting percentage, but I know it was up over 300. It might have been actually around like 350 as well. So, Kentucky, when they're on, when they can pass, like they've got the hitters to put hurting on you.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned SMU. SMU will be get better. I mean, they're another transfer heavy roster that's going to gel as the year goes on too. I mean, Living's had 26 kills for SMU. Wilburn had 12 kills, and they have Jones, who is a transfer from Colorado State, who also has had some good performance as well too. So we'll keep an eye on SMU too. They'll make some noise in the ACC as well too. I'd be interested to see how they stack up against the Pitt and Louisville, if they can crash that party too. But if they can get a big crowd in their home arena, might as well too. The other match I want to talk about, there's Creighton actually held. We mentioned them earlier. They had a really cool quad kind of going on. The big highlight match was Louisville played Creighton on Friday night too, and they snapped the Bluejays 32 match home winning streak. Creighton actually won the first set too, but then Louisville they did pull out that second set 31-29 and then won the next 2 sets. Peterson finished with 18 kills, hit 318. Wakara Cressy hit 14 kills too. So it was cool. I mean, Northern Iowa was there, and Rice is a very solid mid-major team, and Northern Iowa also very good too. And it is the Peterson Bowl because Bobby Peterson was there, and Peterson plays for Louisville. She has a twin sister that plays for Northern Iowa. And then I saw Kirsten Bernthal Booth was in the stands today, sitting in the Northern Iowa section because her daughter plays for the Panthers. So it was all sorts of familiar relationships going on amongst everyone there.
Peyton Peterson not making us look stupid for naming her the inaugural Omaha Supernovas Shining Star of the Week last weekend. And we're going to talk more about Creighton here in just a bit. But we've got some lower division volleyball to talk about as well, some local notables, and then sort of a big headline coming up for Division III. Lincoln, you want to tell everyone about the Wayne America State Wildcats?
Yes. Wayne America, the Wildcats began the week ranked number 25. They had a big win. There's a big tournament out in Colorado. They beat MSU Denver on Friday, who's ranked number 3.
Metro State Denver?
Metro State, I believe. Yeah, Metro State Denver. They won the 5th. It went to 5 sets, 18-16. Wayne State actually faced 2 match points, but came back and scored the final 3 points of the match to end up winning that one. But Chloe Hanel had 18 kills, hit 485. Shout out to her. I think she's Clarkson Lee graduate. So I was getting some feedback on my post about that. But then Delaney Miller also 11 kills. And then Annika Health had 30 kills for MSU Denver. So she's one of the better players in Division II. But the Wayne State Wildcats making some noise Division II.
Well, let's drop down to Division III. The headline of the week, Juniata had a Division III women's volleyball record 103 match winning streak. They've won 3 straight Division III national titles. That streak came to an end on Friday night. The Wittenberg Tigers pulled out a 5-setter over Juniata, 15-13 in the 5th. So congratulations, Wittenberg, going down in the history books as snapping the longest Division III win streak in volleyball history. Penn State, I believe, still holds the overall record, or at least the Division I record, with up over 100 match winning streak as well from back in the late first decade of the 2000s. Yeah.
One of the matches we forgot to mention too, and also Dan had a question about this. Texas made quick work of number 9 Arizona State this week, 18. Well, the second set went to 28 points or 30 points, but 18-15, it was a sweep. Spears had 18 kills. Stafford did her thing. Texas hit 382. So that offense has really come together. But Dan asked the question too. He knows that Texas still plays on a hardwood court. They're one of the few holdouts for elite programs, at least, that is not using a TerraFlex court.
Mm-hmm.
And from my days as a former Texas Longhorn employee, I think that it all stems from they don't own where
like Gregory Gym.
Yeah, where Gregory, they don't own that. That's the kind of a shared facility with the campus rec, so they can't.
A lot like the Coliseum was for Nebraska when they played there.
So yeah, they can't put down, or they don't have storage space for that. So again,
that blows me away, because those TerraFlex floors, they come up. Nebraska takes theirs off at the end of every match. You don't have a place to store it. That sort of wows me a little bit. I wonder if Texas is eyeing, playing more matches in the Moody Coliseum. And when they did that, which was the big match they played in there earlier in the week in their basketball arena, I think that was the comeback against Stanford. Yeah. That was also on a hardwood floor. It's not like Texas has a TerraFlex floor that they can just roll out for that match, although they should get one because everyone else has one.
They have to have one if they want to host regionals at NCAA regional rounds. Requires them to have one too. And you saw, actually put this in our newsletter, Penn State is now playing on a TerraFlex court. I think they bought a generic one that they used last year for the regional rounds, but
on TV, it looks great.
Yeah, they had their big ring ceremony. I watched a little bit, but it's fully branded Nittany Lions. So Penn State is making the jump. Texas, is it a money problem for Texas? You hope not, because
doubtful, highly doubtful.
They got plenty down there. So so. Great observation with that. Let's move on to our next rotation.
Well, not quite yet, because now is when we need to talk about our Omaha Supernovas Shining Star of the Week. This was an easy choice for us this week, and this week's Supernova Shining Star of the Week is Evan Hendricks, the 5'9" sophomore outside hitter for TCU, who put down a toasty 32 kills in the Horned Frogs win over number 23 Missouri this week. She hit 348. Great story for Evan Hendricks. She only started 7 matches last season. She came off the bench. She had 3 double-digit kill matches last year. This year, she already has 6 matches where she has double-digit kills, 32, which is clearly a career high against Missouri, who's a pretty solid team this year, and hitting 348. And again, only 5'9", so she's really explosive. Yeah. And TCU, like the Horned Frogs, were able to pick up that win despite a big loss in their locker room.
Yeah, they lost Jalen Gibson. She went out in that Penn State match in the first weekend of the season for them. They won that match too, and they have 7 straight wins, including 5 against ranked teams. They beat Texas A&M. They beat Missouri this week. They got a big test on Wednesday against those Longhorns from Austin, Texas. So, but Evan Hendricks has been kind of that new emergence of offensive firepower. She's got a chance to prove her abilities, and she did it, and that's why she's our Omaha Supernovas Shining Star of the Week.
For the Supernovas, we got legendary coach John Cook now serving as the Supernovas general manager. Supernovas also have former Husker star Merritt Beeson and returning captain Brooke Nunaviller on the roster in 2026. It's going to be a season that you won't want to miss. So you can be part of the best atmosphere in professional volleyball. They're going to play 14 home matches at the CHI Health Center in 2026. You can cheer on the Supernovas as they chase another championship now in Major League Volleyball. You can get your season tickets at supernovas.com. Just supernovas.com. 2026 season tickets are already on sale. Thank you to the Supernovas for sponsoring our Shining Star of the Week. Let's move into rotation 4 now, which is a look narrowing it down at the Big Ten. Some of these teams flying a little bit under the radar this year. I mean, it feels like in the first 2 seasons of the show, Lincoln, we talked about Wisconsin nonstop. And, they're still having a pretty decent start to the year. They swept Georgia Tech this past week, 22, 17, and 19. Mimi Collier, the Oregon transfer, 19 big kills, hit 567. And it feels like every time I look at a Wisconsin box score, Mimi Collier's jumps off the screen at you.
Yeah, it's going to be the Mimi Collier show in Madison this year too. But she got a little help from Grace Egan in this match. She hit 14 kills at 364 too. Overall, as a team against Georgia Tech, who was rated, I think we were rated 21, somewhere around that range. They hit 488. The only concern that jumped out to me looking at that box scores, they only had 3 blocks. All of them were by Carter Booth, but I don't know if maybe it's, you don't need, if you're hitting 488, you don't need many blocks. You just let your defense handle it and swing away too. is it too early to be concerned about that stuff, or am I just trying to find issues and just?
Well, it is a change because Wisconsin, at least in the last 10 years, has been one of the best blocking teams in the country. So maybe, they still got Carter Booth, who's I think 6'7". They just don't have the size that they've had in the past. And then when you have, that number of transfers, blocking is always a skill that takes a lot of timing to get down. Yeah. And so, maybe that's something to keep an eye on as they go into Big Ten play. But I wouldn't be too concerned about much if I hit 488 as a team. Nebraska has not scratched that yet this year.
Yeah. The other middle, they added Alicia Andrew from Baylor transfer. She's a little bit more offensive, but Carter Booth at 6'7" should be able to do a lot with the block too. The other big match in Big Ten country, number 14, Purdue, big statement win, 4-setter over number 10 SMU. Rough week for the Mustangs.
Yeah.
This match was not available on TV, so you had to watch the box score because it was played at Kentucky as part of their round robin invitational too. So it was at 11 o'clock Central Time. But Elkhorn North grad Grace Heaney, 19 kills, hit .515 and had 12 digs too. So it's good to see her. She didn't play last year. She has some injuries, some health issues, but she's coming out swinging for a revamped Purdue team that gets a big marquee win for them.
Yeah, Purdue hits 294 overall. Woolard also added 14 kills. She's been their leading attacker this year and looks like a really strong player. And then SMU, Jones had 23 kills. Livings had 18 kills. I think Livings at least is a transfer, right? Is she from
USC? USC, yeah. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, SMU has talent. They'll put it together, but a pair of losses are probably going to drop them out of the top 10 when the poll comes out on Monday. So just for grins, one of these is a valid trivia question. This one I put in the show notes. Lincoln, Nebraska's undefeated in the overall a Big Ten team. Do you know who the other Big Ten teams are that are undefeated so far in non-conference play? Neither of them would be one.
Penn State's lost, Wisconsin lost, Purdue's lost. I mean,
We're toying with the listeners a little bit, and this is largely for the listeners because I put this in the show notes. But Steve Aird's got a group at Indiana this year that is yet to lose. They're 8-0. They beat Miami of Florida in 5 to open the season, but then has dropped just one set for the rest of the year, and they're getting it done offensively. Indiana's hitting .346 as a team this year, although if you look at their schedule, not a lot of marquee teams, I would say. They've kind of piled that up against a soft schedule. But, if you're able to get your program some confidence going into Big Ten play, I forget who did this last year. I think it was Washington.
Washington.
It was 10 or 11-0 in the non-conference play, and then really plateaued once they got into Big Ten play. But, you're trying to get your team some confidence and maybe get some wins to make an argument on that first weekend in December or the last weekend in November that you're going to be an NCAA tournament team. The other team that has yet to drop a match, the Kristen Kelsey era in East Lansing has gotten off to a great start. Michigan State is 7-0. But again, they've played nobody. They have piled up those wins against teams that are, probably not going to make a run to the Final Four. Their strength of schedule, thanks for looking this up on the fly, Lincoln, is 260th out of, I don't know how many Division I teams, but 260th strength schedule, not great. They're going to play 3 more teams that I don't think are going to be super challenging in the non-conference play this weekend. So they'll probably be 10-0 going into Big Ten play, where they're going to face a Minnesota team who I think is actually really good.
Yeah, and I don't fault Kristen Kelsey to do this too. I mean, she inherited a team and taking over, trying to figure out who's on it, what she's got, because I think there's a lot of transfer movement going on. So I think she won't do this. I think this is just kind of her first year. Get your feet wet, learn who you got in the team, and figure it out too. I know she has some opportunities to play some big name teams, but let's figure out who we have. And Malaya Long from Lincoln Southwest graduate is out there running the show at setter. So good for her. Good for her.
Another team that is really good. They're not undefeated, but Minnesota's 8-1. They beat Dayton and South Dakota State this weekend, who were solid teams. I mean, Dayton gave Nebraska all they could handle last year in the Sweet 16.
Dayton was ranked to start this year too.
And they're always really, really good in the A10. Minnesota is another team whose offense is clicking. They're hitting 319 as a team. Julia Hansen, we know we've got some Julia Hansen stans who follow us on Twitter. She's averaging better than 4 kills a set, probably one of the top attackers in the Big Ten. So, we talked about Minnesota in the preseason. If their setter was good, and we had every reason to believe Stella Swenson was going to be, then watch out for Minnesota. And so that's going to be a really tough out for anyone in the Big Ten. However, so here's my legit trivia question for you, and I think you know enough to know who this is. There is only one Big Ten team right now who is under 500. Do you know who it is?
I think we've already name dropped on this episode.
Have we?
The Fighting Buckeyes from Ohio State.
Yes, we did. We talked about them when we mentioned Wright State. For the second year in a row, Ohio State loses to Wright State, and the Buckeyes are going in the wrong direction. I think they're 2-4. Maybe they played a match today. But Jen Flynn Oldenburg's got problems in Columbus. They have a nice new arena that's, I think, only like 3 or 4 years old. They should be able to recruit, I would imagine. And so I just don't really know what the problem is to Ohio State. They lost, I think, maybe they beat Miami of Ohio. That's one of their few wins this year.
They beat Miami of Ohio, and they beat Ohio.
Before I started talking about them. Their 2 wins come from in-state teams, but they, losing to Wright State 2 years in a row is not a good look for Ohio State. So we'll see how they go when Big Ten play starts here in a week or so. And then there's a number of other Big Ten teams that just have 1 loss. That's Northwestern, who's got a solid record. Michigan, Oregon, Purdue. We've talked about that record's legit. USC. Struggled a little bit last year, but they look like, they could be pretty decent again this year. That's another team that went big in the transfer portal. And then Wisconsin has only dropped that 1 match so far this year.
Yeah, I think the latter 3, Purdue, USC, Wisconsin, are teams that are legitimate. I do not expect Northwestern and Oregon to keep it up. Michigan may. I think Aaron Virtue is doing some good things too. I know. I think by next week, I'm going to sit down and really do a Big Ten power rankings as the conference schedule starts. So it's time to start paying attention, get these Big Ten teams in your mind and tracking what they're doing too. But I think that
going to see Michigan to start Big Ten play in a week or so, depending on when you listen to this.
Yeah. So that is our Big Ten rotation 2. So let's move to rotation 5. We're going to talk some Creighton Bluejays. The big in-state rivalry is going to happen on Tuesday night. It'll be on FS1, 6:30 p.m. Creighton's 5-4, which you think, look at their record too. You think that Creighton's down, but they have played a pretty tough schedule too. I mean, all their 4 losses have come against ranked teams. They lost to Penn State, they lost to Texas, they lost to Louisville and USC, who we just mentioned. But they do have some quality wins too. They beat San Diego, they beat UC Santa Barbara, who is, I think, they're going to be pretty feisty this year, and as well too. So, and they beat Northern Iowa and Rice as well too. So I think Creighton's record looks down, but I don't think that that is an accurate portrayal. I mean, they're going to do what they normally do and rip off like a.
They're going to win like 25 matches in a row once they get into the Big East. So some of the, we'll talk here in a second with Creighton coach Brian Rosen, and he'll tell us all about the players they lost from last year. But coming back, Creighton's got a solid nucleus. They've got senior outside hitter Ava Martin has kind of taken over from Nora Sis as the leading attacker. She averages almost 4 kills a set. She had 17 kills and 17 digs in that match against Nebraska last season. And if you forgot how that match went, that was a 5-setter in the Devaney Center where, Nebraska looked this close to sweeping that match, but then Creighton came back and won game 3, I think 33-31, and then rolled in game 4. So after Nebraska took the first 2 games, Huskers were in danger of getting reverse swept before they pulled out game 5. And Kiara Reinhardt, who we mentioned earlier in the national section, had a great match for Creighton this past week. She's averaging just over 2.5 kills a set. She's a senior middle blocker. So Creighton's really solid, and they're gonna. This match means a lot to them. The Nebraska match means a lot to Creighton. CHI Health Center is going to have 12, 13,000 people in it probably on Tuesday night. And we are also going to be with you live on Tuesday night after the Nebraska Creighton match for our volleyball late post-game show. Normally, this is only available to Patreon subscribers. We're going to blow it open to everyone. We're going to put the link out there, and you're going to be able to watch instant reactions and participate on YouTube and in the I-80 Club Discord if you're a member. Give us your comments. Give us your questions. We'll be breaking down Nebraska versus Creighton probably somewhere around 9 o'clock on or maybe a little after on Tuesday night.
Yeah, depending on how. Usually it's about like 20 minutes, it's a half hour after the match ends, is whenever that. So that's a little bit about the Creighton Bluejays, big matchup. But we talked to Brian Rosen again. I think we mentioned this in their interview. We talked to him on Friday before the Louisville match and kind of their 3 matches. They're playing 3 matches in 5 days. So he was very generous to talk to us on game day.
They played 4 matches in 5 days.
4 days, yeah, 4 matches, 3 matches in 3 days, and then another one day off. And then Nebraska coming to town. So not an easy task. So let's throw it to our interview with Creighton coach Brian Rosen. And we welcome on to Volleyball State head coach of Creighton, Brian Rosen, first-year coach. Creighton does play Nebraska Tuesday night at 6:30. The match will be on FS1. We are talking to him Friday morning. He's got a busy schedule coming up this weekend. Creighton will take part in the Bluejays Invitational this weekend at DJ Sokol Arena. Creighton played Louisville on Friday, Rice on Saturday, Northern Iowa on Sunday. It's a busy week, so we appreciate him joining us, give him some of his time. So Brian, first let's start there. How do you prepare to play 4 matches over a 5-day stretch? What is that like?
I think the first thing is have a great strength coach that's gonna help keep our athletes' bodies, and our athletic trainer is incredible because it is a lot of wear and tear on these athletes, especially the ones who jump a lot. And so you look at most of the P4 schools these days are playing at most 2 matches in weekends, but because of our schedule and the way that we need to schedule to get as many top 25, top RPI matches we can, we have to schedule a lot. So we're already 6 matches in. We'll play 4 more in the next 5 days, and then we get Kansas and a really good USF team the next week. So we definitely try to pack all these matches in, but we take every match one at a time. All our focus right now is on Louisville, and then we'll approach Rice, and then we'll approach UNI, and then we'll approach Nebraska. And so luckily we get at least 1 day in between to kind of rest a little bit for Nebraska on Tuesday, but they will be no easy test, that's for sure.
Coach, we want to let folks know a little bit more about your background. You've spent a few months now as the head coach of Creighton, named the head coach in April, but you're not a stranger to the program. You've been an assistant at Creighton since 2022. Now having been in the head job for a couple months, is there anything about being the head coach that you maybe didn't fully appreciate or fully understand while you were watching Kirsten do it these last few years? It's something you can only really understand once you're in the head chair yourself.
Oh yeah, I mean the pressure of making decisions is just different. And I was a head coach actually before I came to Creighton at a D2 level where maybe 50 people cared about the decisions that I made. Here at this level, it's on a much more public stage, obviously. Which is a great thing because so many people in this state care about volleyball and are have eyes on our program in Nebraska and all these programs that are here. And so the pressure of who plays and when to call timeout and when to put all those things are now much more scrutinized than they were before. But I think my experience where I was before and then my experience working with a legend and Coach Booth have definitely helped prepare me for where I'm at right now. I felt like I was a really good head coach when I was at NSU. Took a losing program to the NCAA tournament pretty quickly, and I thought I had it all figured out. And then coming here, getting to work with Coach Booth and with Angie, quickly learned I could have done that better. I could have done this better. And so I feel like I am way more prepared and such a better coach now than I was, 4 years ago when I was at NSU.
Yeah, you mentioned it there. I mean, prior to Creighton, you were at Division II Nova Southeastern, which is a school down in Florida.
Yeah.
First, I mean, how did you get connected with Creighton, and was it a leap of faith to go from being a Division II head coach to being a Division I assistant coach?
Yeah. I was the head coach at a really strong Division II conference in Florida. Was happy there. I had just signed a contract extension to stay. And then I got a text from Coach Booth. I'd never spoken to her before. I'd never met her before. She got my name from like a mutual friend who told her like, hey, this guy's done a really nice job at NSU. She sent me a text basically just saying, hey, I'm not sure if you're interested in not being a head coach anymore, but I'd love to just talk. And at the time, I just wanted to talk to someone who was really important in volleyball. You know, I felt for a career, for networking, I would be crazy to not just say yes to the phone call. But I had no intention of leaving whatsoever. Ended up on the phone with her for an hour, and I knew right when I got off the phone that I wanted to be here. I still vividly remember walking out of my wife's little home office and telling her like, I really want that job, and I have the most supportive wife ever. Like right then she started looking up houses in Omaha and like where our kids could go to school and those kinds of things. I hadn't even been offered the job yet, you know. And then the two of us came together for the interview. It was negative 17 degrees when we landed. We didn't even own coat. We had to Amazon like purchase like real jackets just for this trip. The next day got a little warmer. The next day got a little warmer, but we said yes on the spot on the interview, put an offer in on a house while we were here, and moved like a week later. So I think a lot of things in coaching are a leap of faith, but like I put my faith behind Coach Booth and full well what her current expectations were for the program and then where she wanted them to go. And I think that's what impressed me the most was how good Creighton was as a program, but she wasn't satisfied with it. You know, she told me on that phone call, like, I want coaches and student athletes who are Final Four driven, that aren't satisfied with where we've been. And like, that's what impressed me the most. And, you know, I wanted to help her get there. And obviously last year falling a few points short to Penn State of getting there is still something that that haunts me a little bit because I really wanted that for her and for this program.
Yeah. You mentioned kind of you came from Florida. I mean, you also have a lot of roots in both North and South Carolina too. Mm-hmm. Had you been to the Midwest before too? And how is volleyball culture different here than what you had experienced kind of the Southeast part of the country?
Yeah, we had never lived outside of the Southeast before. I had been to Omaha for the Final Fours before, and you know, I've been to the Midwest for like club tournaments as a recruiter, like those kinds of things. But yeah, never lived out here. My wife had never been out here before, so that trip was her first time. And when you're in Florida and you're in there, you always hear like, you know, Nebraska is the epicenter of volleyball, and like you don't understand what that means. Like, yeah, they got a lot of fans that like volleyball, like. That's cool. But you don't know it until you get here. And I think I'm lucky that I've been to a lot of Final Fours as a fan, and whether Nebraska is in it or not, there's just a lot of red in the crowd, and you just start noticing it like over and over again. And and I think that's what I've found to be like the most like unique and special thing about volleyball fans in the state of Nebraska is they just love volleyball. And yeah, they want their team in it. But even if they're not, they'll support it. And I saw that even our first match against Nebraska, my first year as an assistant, like at CHI, you know, it's probably 50-50 Nebraska Creighton supporters at the game. And when we made a great play, they're kind of cheering for it, you know. When they make a great play, they're cheering for it. And then, you know, when the game gets tight, the Red fans start to go big Red chants, and the Creighton fans start their chants. And but I just love that. Like volleyball fans support each other. You know, in our first match against Penn State in PBA, I'm sure a lot of those fans were Nebraska fans, and it felt like a home game almost because, you know, maybe it was just rallying around their hate for Penn State. But I also think they rally around like us. And yeah, they're going to root against us in the one match a year. But I feel like every fan here, even the Creighton fans, are like, you know, I root for Nebraska every game but one, or I root for Creighton every game but one. And I love that about this state, and it's at all levels. The NAIA teams here are incredible. The D2 teams, like I was talking to someone yesterday, my first year at NSU, Nebraska Kearney came to one of our tournaments, and I took over a team that had won 3 games the year before. And so I looked them up and I was like, oh no. So I brought another team in just so I didn't have to play them. And they ended up going to the national championship that year. And so I've always known how strong the programs were here. But the fan bases here are just incredible. And as I looked at other opportunities for my career, I just kept coming back to like, where could I go that my job would matter and impact people as much as it does here? And I don't think there's an answer to that. And that's what makes this place so unique.
We're with Creighton head coach Brian Rosen. Coach, we talked a little bit about what an amazing season the Blue Jays had last year and made it all the way to the Elite Eight in a really competitive match with Penn State that could have gone either way. But then also a number of those key contributors, let's call them, are no longer on Creighton's team this year. So you had a lot to replace. You lost Nora Sis, Kendra Waite, Elise Getzinger, but you bring back a really good core too with Ava Martin and Kiera Reinhardt, Jaya Johnson. For those players that were coming back this year, how did you sort of challenge your returners, or how did you approach that with them, that like this is their team now?
Yeah, obviously a lot of leadership left as well, so it wasn't even just a number standpoint. Luckily, Kiara's a sixth year for us. She's been a captain of this team since I got here 4 years ago, I feel like. And so she's such an incredible leader in all ways. She's like the mom of the team. She'll make sure like, you know, everything's packed and everything's in the right place and all those kinds of things. And then she'll also like hold people accountable. So what we talked to like Ava Martin about was like, you've got to be the on-court leader. Like you've got to, you know, be the rah-rah, do everything the right way, like work your butt off, which she's always been, but now just more eyes are going to be on you. And she's done such a great job of doing that. Jaya Johnson, we just kind of talked about how like you're just going to get more sets, more difficult situations. Like we're going to count on you more. You have to be okay with your, you know, hitting percentage numbers going down some this year. You know, last year we used her in perfect scenarios, big holes, and she did great. And she had her best matches at the end of the year. And so like making sure that she knew like we're going to start setting you out of system now, like you're going to have four hands on you a lot and those kinds of things. And so making sure like she understood the perspective of numbers might look different. And then just, you know, all of our new players coming in, especially the ones that came in this spring, you know, asking them to, you know, assume some leadership roles. Like this is what our culture is like. This is our expectation of who you are in our gym, who you are as a teammate. And they've done a really nice job coming in and doing that.
Yeah, one of the new additions who wasn't here this spring is your setter, Cal transfer, Annalie Mater. She had a big job to replace Kendra Waite. How has she settled into the position and kind of taken the reins of the offense?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we told Anna right from the start was like, we're never going to expect you to be Kendra Waite. Like Kendra Waite is a unicorn in who she is as an athlete. Best blocker, best defender, you know, those kinds of things. Like she would probably tell you like setting might be her like fifth favorite skill. Anna is a pure setter, really good location, like can make every set. But what we've loved about her is she's actually a solid defender. She's 6'1" maybe, like so solid blocker, offensive at the net. She's left-handed. So like some of the areas where we weren't sure, you know, could we replace Kendra's like 1 kill a set? Like some of those kinds of things, she's come in and shown that she can do that. We're trying to get her to attack more. But what I love is when she got here this summer, like right away, she like slowly like added her voice more in the gym to the point where like when summer camp started and you know, I was talking to the athletes about like, hey, how are things going with the team? Like, how's the leadership? Like her name kept coming up over and over again, which like really surprised me as someone that had been in for like a week at that time and then 2 weeks. And then when we voted for captains, like she was voted by the team as one of those. And so I think that's a very unique thing from someone like the only person on our team that was not here in the spring and came late. And so she's done a really nice job. She's got like a fun, goofy personality. And again, wants to be a doctor at some point, also wants to play professionally after this. And so, yeah, we're excited to see where this season goes with her and where she goes after that.
Coach, you also had to round out your assistant coaching team when you became the head coach, and you did that with former Wisconsin player Izzy Ashburn. How did you kind of get connected with her, and what were what attracted you to adding her to the staff?
Yeah, so we really wanted someone that could train setters, obviously with Anna coming in, and then we have a freshman that we're really high on that's coming in this spring. So like someone that could come in and really like take them under their wing. So I wanted someone with some Midwest ties. And like I've always been the recruiting coordinator. It's a huge strength of mine. So I wanted someone that could come in and help with those things as well. So started, kind of reaching out to people, looking at names. Luckily, like we have obviously a lot of pro volleyball here in Nebraska, so we actually were looking at like some older players in the PVF and Love, and then as we were on a roster, we saw her on it, and at the time I didn't know she was coaching, and so reached out to her out of the blue to see if she'd be interested, and I think she was hesitant. I think the pro coaching lifestyle is kind of you get paid to work for like 4 months out of the year. You don't have to travel a ton. But I talked to her about like, the differences between college coaching and pro coaching. I think the biggest one is relationship building. Like you truly get to know the athletes at this level. You get to make an impact and make a difference. You're not just coaching X's and O's. And I think that's the biggest thing that really attracted her here. And then I just think what we really loved about her is, one, her story. I love that, she went to Wisconsin knowing full well that she was going to probably sit the bench her first couple of years. She actually was high school teammates with Sydney Hilly. So she knew that she was there. Went to the coaches and said, like, how do I help this team? Well, learn how to serve. And so she went in the gym and worked on her serve and became one of the best servers in Big Ten history. And then obviously she took over the setting roles her last couple of years there. And won a national championship with Wisconsin. She loves to brag that her record against Nebraska is really good. We can't say that yet, so we're hoping that she brings some of that with us. But yeah, and she's been great, a great recruiter, like really good with connections, not afraid to call anybody. And so yeah, she's been a great addition to our staff.
Great. Yeah, spent last year with the Indy Ignite. Last question for you, Brian. You mentioned this a little bit too. Creighton really has been, I think, aggressive in their scheduling, maybe more so than years past too. You opened up with Penn State in the first serve showcase. You played Texas, Kansas. You actually played Kansas twice. Southern California, Louisville, Nebraska. How necessary is it to build the schedule like this to give yourself those challenges early on in the season?
Yeah, I think it's critical. Again, our conference is really, I think our conference gets overlooked a lot. We've been the 5th best conference in the country 4 years in a row. Marquette's a pretty consistent Sweet 16 team. UConn right now is the top 25 of RPI. Like they're doing some really good things. So our conference is good, but it's not the Big Ten right now. It's not the ACC, the SEC. So we kind of talk about like we schedule backwards. So we'll schedule really, really tough in the preseason to kind of get us prepared, to give us a chance to host. Last year we were the 5th seed or something like that. And I think if Nebraska beats Penn State in the last match of the year, like maybe we host Penn State instead of going there. But we know that also on our end, if we would have won if we would have beat Nebraska in that 5th set last year, or beat Louisville in that 5th set last year, we probably host and we're a top 4 seed. If we win one of these, like the Kansas match that we won already, like gives us a chance to be a top 16 seed and get to host the first 2 rounds. So like those matches give us the opportunity to potentially host. And they also, like, just making the NCAA tournament's not easy. And this program has done it a lot of years in a row, and making sure like we never take that for granted. So we have to win these top 50 matches. And like UC Santa Barbara, I think it's going to be a top 25 team at the end of the year. They're really good. They swept K-State last night, and even San Diego's a consistent top 50 team. UNI and Rice this weekend. So really trying to schedule tough. I think this year, I think going to the Elite Eight last year like put us on the like public map to where we got invited to some of these tournaments that maybe we wouldn't get invited to before, to where we've played like the 3 top 15 matches in a row to start the year, knowing full well that was going to be hard. But it's great for our program. Like anytime we can get on national TV and have that kind of exposure, it's great for our current athletes. It's great for our recruiting. And we go into every one of those matches expecting to be successful, and also working on perspective of if it doesn't go our way, like we got to move on to the next one. And that's what we're going to try to keep doing.
Creighton head coach Brian Rosen joining us on Volleyball State. No cakewalk over the next week as well. The Bluejays host the Bluejay Invitational. By the time you all hear this, they will have played Louisville on Friday, Rice on Saturday, Northern Iowa on Sunday, and of course the big Nebraska match at CHI Health Center coming up on Tuesday evening. Brian, good luck this weekend and the rest of the season. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Excited to see you guys all on Tuesday. We're expecting a sellout, so it's going to be fun.
All right, so Creighton did go 2-1 as we expected, or thought was plausible on this weekend. They lost to Louisville on Friday. They beat Rice in Northern Iowa this weekend. The big match with Nebraska, 6:30 Tuesday night on FS1, and join us right back here for Volleyball Late, about a half hour after the end of Nebraska and Creighton. But Nebraska, that's not the only match that they have this coming week. Rotation 6 gives us our preview of the Arizona Wildcats. And Lincoln, this is a late match. It starts at 8 o'clock Central Time Saturday, so that it can be on Big Ten Network after a football game. So you get your fill of Nebraska, Michigan football in the afternoon. You come back for Nebraska, Arizona volleyball. It's the non-conference finale for the Huskers at the Devaney Center.
Yeah, it's going to be. I despise these 8 p.m. starts, but you know what?
You're going to be filing your game story at like 11 p.m.
It'll be great. I'll take a nap during the day, so I'll be good to go. But hey, Arizona comes into the match 6-2. They did lose both the matches this weekend to Washington and San Diego. That San Diego lost to the Toreros was 16-14 in the fifth set. And like we said earlier, San Diego, they're a pretty feisty team. They got 26 kills from outside hitter Jordan Wilson. So they're looking to get back on the right track too, and hoping to do so against a big opponent in Nebraska.
Yeah, Arizona's got a couple big guns that you got to worry about. We mentioned Jordan Wilson. She's their leading attacker by far, 4.5 kills per set. So she sees a lot of sets each match. Also, Carly Cisneros averages 3.28 kills per set. So Arizona had a pretty solid start to the season. They started 6-0 against not the strongest competition. In fact, they hadn't allowed a team to hit over 200 until this weekend. But, this is a program that had a lot of stability for a long time. Under Dave Rubio was their longtime head coach, and now Charita Stubbs is in, I believe, her third season taking over for him, either third or fourth. She was a long time assistant at Arizona under Dave Rubio, so she's a Wildcat through and through. They narrowly missed the NCAA tournament last year, but they did take some momentum into the offseason. They won the NIVC tournament, so like the second-tier tournament if you don't make the NCAAs, and they got some really solid players. They're going to make some noise in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, it would have been, that's again Nebraska's final non-conference match before Big Ten season starts. So they're doing it under the lights at John Cook Arena. So we will talk about that show. Like I said, Volleyball Late on Tuesday after Creighton, but we'll recap the Arizona match next Sunday at 7 p.m. for our live show for our Patreon members, and that will drop in your feeds next Tuesday.
That's right. If you want to get those shows live, you want to be able to check out all of our Volleyball Lates and ask us questions during the show, you have to go to patreon.com/I80 Club. We've had some people ask us, how do you spell that? Patreon is patreon.com/I80 Club. We would love to have you join this community for just $5 a month. You can become a Volleyball State subscriber, help support what we do. We keep growing the show, and you can ask us questions like Chris asked apparently tonight, asking what room I'm in because my background looks different. No, this is a sleight of hand magic trick of the internet. I am not in my office at my regular job. I am just here in my regular Volleyball State HQ. But we had some people say they didn't like looking at my spare guest bedroom that we record this show in. And so, this is magic. This is smoke and mirrors. I can put any kind of background I want. Next week, I might be doing the show from the moon, and you would never be able to tell. So thank you so much to our Patreon subscribers that we do have. We'd love to continue growing those ranks. So sign up at patreon.com/I80 Club if you like what you're here. Also, thank you so much to Alumni Hall for sponsoring our show all season long. You can get 15% off your merchandise order at alumnihall.com when you use code VolleyballState, all one word, or if you just walk right in one of their 2 brick and mortar stores in Lincoln and tell them you're a Volleyball State listener, you'll save 15%.
Yep. And you can read more of Jeff and I's coverage on huskermax.com as well. If you want to follow us on social media, find our Patreon, interact with us more, go to volleyballstate.com. We got a link tree there that has everything that you could also possibly want. Lots of volleyball coverage going on there too. Email us any questions you have at volleyballstate@gmail.com. But that's our show for this week. So thank you for listening, and thank you for living in the Volleyball State.